So good afternoon, or early good evening. Welcome everyone.
Yes.
Today is Thursday, March 21st. This is our fifth meeting. So as we begin, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone once again to the Cartwright School District Confer process and meeting. I do want to just remind everyone of the norms, please, and that the meeting will begin and that both at the appointed time. Spokespersons may recognize each other and team members when speaking. And then also this display continues to display courtesy, and respectful conversations and respect each other. Again, for the record, that has not been a problem, so thank you. Going back to a quick norm, what I do want to highlight, folks, please, specifically for our whole teams, is that when we are speaking, if we could speak directly into the mic, but not on the mic, one, because in terms of the audible piece, we're still navigating through some pieces of confusion in terms of being able to hear. The other big piece that was just brought to our attention this afternoon is that we need to minimize, even if we can, discourage sidebars. Sidebars are becoming a problem because from an audible standpoint, it's becoming very difficult for the audience and those who are participating in the streamlining of this or watching this at home. It's hard to get what's actually being said because the voices are going over each other, if you will. And then certainly last but not least, it's hard, very difficult for the CS to be able to record that. So please, we ask that you do that. Let me discourage that, please, because that's been a problem so late. So, with that said, I'd like to begin with, or continue with meeting minutes. Under D, one approval of minutes of February 21st. The district administrator meet confer negotiations. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Make a motion to approve those. I'll second.
Ms. Atkins makes a motion. Ms. Betsy Bryan. Second. Any conversation or any discussion?
I just want to say thank you to the district for live streaming this. It has been a really beneficial thing moving forward here. And not only do we have the minutes record, but we have a digital record. And I just hope at the end of this we consider the procedure of documenting the digital record, since that is the most accurate way to really get the understanding of in the context of proposals.
Thank you. Okay, with that said, all those in favor of approving the minutes of February 21st, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, approval minutes of February 28th, 2019 District Administrative Meeting, the meet confer negotiations. Is there a motion to approve those particular minutes?
I make a motion.
Ms. Ackman makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll give Mr. Regella this one. Mr. Regella seconds motion. Discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So next on the agenda is letter E, new proposals. So we, Mr. Regella and I thank you, Mr. Regella, for understanding that we wanted to place this in order, as tonight's meet confer negotiations will primarily devote its time to the budget proposals, salary projections that the famous Mr. Zeke OJ from the Business and Finance Department, our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, will be presenting the salary projections. So, Mr. OJ, it's always a welcome and always nice to see you. So, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arenas. And good evening, everyone, and welcome. I would like to begin by thanking Chris Castle, Michelle Robertson, all the CBA members, and in fact, all employees that walked this past November and helped in passing the override. The override passed by about 65%, which is huge for us. So that shows what can happen when different employee groups come together to work for a common cause. Having said that, I will go ahead and begin. I'll begin my presentation today by talking about current year funding. Can everybody hear me? Everybody can hear me well? Okay. So, what does current year funding mean? It means that you get money for the enrollment that you have now. It means that you're only getting money for the number of kids that you have. And remember that we are planning our budget a year in advance. We are estimating what our enrollment will be. Now, if come next year, our enrollment goes down, we are only going to be getting money for the kids that we have at that time. So that is what current year funding. And about 2 years ago, the state implemented current year funding, and all school districts in the state are operating under that model now. Our average daily membership this year alone is, we are down almost 1,400 kids in 1 year. Now, to put this in perspective, 10 years ago when we closed Berry and the CECC, the preschool, we were down less kids then than we are now this year. Last year we were down 576 kids, and the year before that we were down 471 kids. In fact, when I came to this district about 7.5 years ago, we had 19,000 kids. Right now, we are at 15,000 kids. That is a huge amount of student loss. Huge, no doubt. So what does about 1378 decline mean financially? That translates to about $7.7 million. And we continue to, run the district without briefing any employee, without layoffs, and without furloughing. We have not furloughed anyone since I have been here as a chief financial officer. So what does our budget look like? We are estimating about $151 million to operate as our to operate the district next year. That includes all of our different funding sources. Our MRO fund at $93 million. Our title funds at $11 million. The classroom side fund also at $11 million. Medicaid reimbursement at about $4 million. Indirect costs at $6 million. Civic center funds at $800,000, etc. And I've highlighted those in yellow because I'll be talking about them, later on in the presentation. Page 4 is a graphical representation of what I just showed on page 3. All right. So what everyone is waiting for, what are we proposing? What are the highlights this year? We will be getting our base support level will be going up by about 2% inflation factor from the state. And we are honoring in this district the work that all of you did last year with the Red for Ed movement that promised 20 by the year 20. Last year we gave anywhere from 8.5 to 11% to our teachers. This year we gave that to our teachers. Next year we are proposing a 5% permanent raise to all certificated employees. And to all of our classified employees, we are proposing a 4.5% increase. And to our administrators, a 4% increase. So that is the crux of what we are proposing for next year.
We are behind on the slides. Do you mind? Do you mind going over that one more time, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Kevin, can you do this slide for me, please? Thank you. All right. So what are we proposing? We are proposing that all teachers will get a 5% permanent increase next year. That classified administrators and classified employees will get an increase or a raise of 4.5%, and administrators will get a raise of about 4%. Again, if there are questions, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. So the next slide shows our sources of money, how much we plan to get, and how we plan to spend that money. So the top part shows our sources, and these are marginal increases. These are the addition that we expect to see happen next year. And on this chart, again, our enrollment is down to about 1,500. This other sources includes all the money that we plan to get. The inflation factor of 2% is added in here. The $105, from the governor is in there. Our override is in there. How much we plan to get from the override that passed, and the Prop 123 money. They are all in here. On a recurring basis, we are estimating about 4.7 million next year. Now, in addition to that, we plan to, if everything goes well, we plan to carry over a little over 8 million. And this is a stretch because, as I shared with you in the my first slide, we have been down over 400 every single year, in the past 4 years. Now, for next year, we are estimating that we are going to be down 200. And so while we're doing that, I am very hopeful that some of the marketing efforts, some of the programs we plan to implement, when they come to fruition, will help stem that huge decline we've been experiencing. But of course, there is no guarantee, and there is no assurance that come next year we will not see another massive decline. While we are hoping for the best, we have to be realistic and plan for anything that could happen. So the 8 million includes budget balance, carry forward, savings, attritions, E-rate expenditures. We've added all of those, and it's taking into account the reduced staff that we anticipate, to bring back next year. So all of those will add to about 8 million. Now in this district, we have smart schools. We are estimating anywhere from 15 to about 25, 22 employees will participate in smart school. The savings, from that, we are estimating at about $150,000. Everybody knows what smart school means?
No.
Okay, I need to explain it. Smart schools is a program where employees that retire get to work full time with full pay for the district.
I'm stuck.
Oh. So, if say a teacher after 20 years of service decides to retire, but the teacher doesn't want to work half time, because in the States, if you retire, you can only work 20 half of 20 hours a week, half time. But if you want to work full time with all of your benefits, then you can go to smart schools, and in turn, we have negotiated a deal with smart schools, which is an organization that will allow you to work and then bring you back to the district. While you are an employee of smart school, you'll be working for the district. And if you need more information on this, put in a call to HR. We negotiated a very good deal for smart school employees. But there is a saving to the district, from that, and that savings comes from the district paying the smart school employees 80% of their salary. Not 100, 80%. But we also pay for their ACR. The ACR is the alternate contribution rate. So the take-home pay for a smart school employee is about the same as what they were earning when before they left before they retired. So it is a win for the district, it is a win for the employee, and it's also a win for our kids. And that was why we implemented that program. Does that make sense? Okay. So we are anticipating a savings of about $150,000 here. And I have already told you that as a result of losing almost 1,400 kids this year, we have to subtract almost 7.7 million from our budget this year. Now, when you add up all the number on the far right column, you will see that we will end up with about $5.5 million to the good. So that is our sources of funding for next year. Now, how are we going to spend this money? The first thing that I want to talk about is we are anticipating a decline of about 200 kids next year. That decline will correspond to about $1.1 million. And I've also talked about giving all certificated employees a 5% raise. That would translate to about 2.3 million. Administrators and classifieds, while the administrators will get a 4%, classifieds will get a 4.5%. That will translate to about 1.3 million. Now, we also have a program in this district where we allow retired employees to come and work for teachers work for about 25 days. Is that correct? Retired teachers can come back and work for 25 days, and in return for that, we pay for their insurance. We think we're going to spend about $60,000 on that. Then the next item is about $70,000 on the ACR that we talked about, I talked about ACR earlier on. It used to be 9, now it's 10.5%. So we pay this amount for retirees. In exchange for that, they will get only 80% of their salary. But that 80% translates to about the same amount of take home as they were getting before. Alright, so we are estimating about $70,000. Yeah, property and liability insurance we're estimating will go up by 50, workers' comp by another 50, SRP about 25. We are estimating $250,000 in healthcare cost increase. And last year we negotiated a deal where teachers with 10 years or more of experience will get a 2% COLA that we offered in November, that theirs will become permanent. The additional increase of, for those teachers is about $332,000, and then a contingency of about 50. So that is how we plan to spend that money. The next slide.
So I just wanted, just realized, because I'm assuming the live stream doesn't have split screen, just kind of a message to the people watching that they can find this PowerPoint on Google Docs right now and follow along with you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Thank you. No, that is good. And on page 7, that shows a historical trend of the raises we've given our employees. This year that we're in, 18-19, every single teacher got a raise from between 8.5% and 11%, depending on how many years you've been with the district. The classifieds got 5%, and the administrators received 2%. This year that we're in, 3%. This year that we're in. Next year, we are proposing 5% to all certificated employees, 4.5% for classified employees, and 4% to administrators. On page 8, this is where I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the funds I highlighted, on page 1. I know there are a few questions about our Medicaid and indirect costs and our district additional assistance funds. And so I wanted to address those here, well, especially the Medicaid and the indirect costs. These are not funds, these are not monies meant for salaries. With regard to the Medicaid, these are partial reimbursements that we get for the money that we spend on our special ed kids. Now, we are not getting 100% reimbursement. As a matter of fact, our expenditures, in that category continues to soar. We continue to spend a substantial amount of money without being funded adequately by the state. Now, the indirect costs, these are administrative offsets for services that we provide to grant-funded projects. These are all one-time, they are ideal for one-time expenditures. And we have been saving those funds to undertake one-time expenditures. Expenditures that are not recurring in nature. In about 18 months' time, all of our student testing devices will become obsolete, or they will not be supported by their manufacturers. And we have to be ready to make sure we have devices that are current, that are being supported by the manufacturers, and that can hold the latest countless applications out there. And the other major reason why we are setting this money aside is to pay for accrued time on the books. Some of you teachers here today have over 1,000 hours on the books. If you have been with us for a long time, you probably have over 1,000 hours on the books. These are your vacation, your sick time, your annual leave, and etc. Because we are a right to work state, Arizona is a right to work state. That means anybody at any time can quit the employment. Now, if you quit, we are obligated to pay you for all of the time that you have on the books. All those accrued times have to be paid. Now, it is unlikely that everybody will just get up and quit. But if a good amount of people do that, we will be obligated to pay them. And there are just no questions about that. Nobody wants to hear, can you come back next month to get your money? No, we'll pay you, when. And we'll pay our bills when they are due. Now on page 9, I will talk about the district additional assistance. Now this is a fund that replaces our capital fund and soft capital. For those of you who have been with us for a long time, you remember capital, you remember soft capital. You can use soft capital for XYZ. You can use capital for other things. Now, the idea behind the district additional assistance was because the state had underfunded school district for a long time, and then they removed the restrictions that they had to allow districts to use this money for purposes other than they were initially meant for. But unfortunately, in our district, because we are a bedroom community, our property values are extremely low because we're a bedroom community. That means our taxes compared to other districts are high. And we are one of the few districts that do not or cannot afford to have a capital override. What we just had was an M&O override. In part, we couldn't do this because our property values are so low. Now, take Phoenix Union, for instance, neighboring district. They just passed a bond of over 200 million, 269 to be million. And yet, their tax rate is still lower than ours, and we are not able to pass nothing in capital override. Fowler, because of where it is situated, has a lot of businesses that help support their property values. But within our boundary, the largest employer here is Walmart. So we do not have the manufacturing plants, we do not have the commercial buildings that will support the type of taxes that we will need. So we just have to make do with what we have. Now I say this because we are one of the few districts that are not able to move money from this DAA to the M&O, because we need every single money that we can get from the DAA just to keep our districts running. Now, this DAA has been heavily reduced over the years. For those of you who have been keeping track, there was a major lawsuit against the state about 2 years ago, and all districts, signed up to, and became part of a class action lawsuit. And that was because the state was not funding the capital needs of districts. In fact, about 3 years ago, we were supposed to get $9 million. They gave us $1 million, and took away $200,000, so we ended up with only $800,000. In the meantime, our burn rate, the amount of money that we need to maintain the district, the minimum amount we need to maintain the district, to repair our AC units when they go back, to replace buses, fix buses, buy new buses, to tar our parking lots, etc. The minimum amount we need, and those are all capital items, the minimum amount that we need is $3.5 million. So when the year that the state gave us $1 million,
What was that number?
I'm sorry,
What was the number you just said again?
3.5.
3.5.
That is the minimum that we need to meet our capital needs. And that is barring any emergency. And we've had quite a few in the district. So if you look at page 9, by formula, we are supposed to get 6.7 million. Because we have 15,000, because our ADM is 15,000, the per student entitlement is $450. That translates to about 6.7 million. So how much are we going to receive? We are estimating a receipt of 2.6. And last year was the first year that the government said, hey, we know you have a lawsuit. I will do something about that lawsuit. And that was when they started the restoration of the DAA. Last year was the first year, they restored. He said over a period of 5 years, he will make the district whole. Now this year, we are also anticipating receiving 1.6 million as part of the governor's effort to fully restore the capital funds over a period of 5 years. So altogether, we are anticipating receiving 4.2 million in capital funds this year. But as you can clearly see, if we are due, or if we are supposed to get 6.7, and we are only receiving 4.2, there is still a huge gap. Right? And then going on to the next page. The 301 committee met yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't remember. I have good news for all teachers, and that is that we are proposing raising your 301 money by $1,000. Nobody clapped. All right. And I thought that was great news,
There have been years when it's gone the other direction.
In Fund 11, which is embedded in your salary, we are proposing a $200 increase there. Fund 12, which is your performance. If you are highly effective or effective, you will receive $2,100 instead of $17. Now, if you are developing, you will get $1,800. Now, if you are an effective teacher, we still will give you $1,500. I don't know any school district that takes care of teachers like this. So if we are not a teacher-centric district, I don't know who is. Then on Fund 12 also, this is your endorsements. You still continue to get about $1,100, $550 a piece. In Fund 13, which is our Part C, we are recommending increasing that by $400 from $1,600 to $2,000. And then the $1,000 that is outside of your contracting stays the same. So that is an increase of $1,000 from 65 to 75. On page 11, This is a summary of some of the things I've just talked to you about. And that is that in 2 years, we have teachers between this year and next year. We are recommending 13.5 to 16% raise for teachers between this year and next year. While administrators will be getting about 7 over a 2-year period, and classifiers about 9.5 over the same 2-year period. Now we also have in our districts, in order to attract quality and highly educated certificated employees, if a teacher comes to us with 20 years of experience, we will honor that. If they have the doctorate, we will give them credit for that many years. The other thing I wanted to point out is that we have a school in our district that received an A. And because the school received an A, they had, the governor gave them an additional $258,000. Any teacher from Sunset here? No? But in our district, we pushed the entire $258,000 to the school side. What other school districts are doing, they will keep some money at the district office to fund some district projects. Every single business manager I talked to, that's what they are doing. But in our district, I said no. We are a teacher-centric district, and I want everything, all the money to go to our teachers. In fact, more than all the money, because we have some employees, there that got, that cannot partake, in this resource-based funding, but we're getting a little bit of something, to thank them. So 100% of the resource-based funding money that they got went to Sunset, and so, all the teachers there got an additional $3,000 as a result of this. Of course, everybody knows that we have the National Board program here, and we not only encourage teachers to become National Board certified, we pay them after they get certified. We pay them to take the test. When they pass, we pay them more money. On page 12, I wanted to stress that even though we are down almost 1,400 kids this year, we have not reduced any of the benefits that our certificated employees have come to enjoy over the years. And we are working hard. We are working hard, looking at every penny, looking at how we can squeeze out efficiencies. All the benefits you've been getting, the perfect attendance money, your life insurance, your software insurance, the winter break, all of those are intact. On page 13, we are also not changing anything. If you become a board certified, National Board certified teacher, we'll give you $3,000. Next year, we'll continue to honor that. The India Gaming Fund, you continue to receive the exact amount of money that you've been getting. And on page 14, again, we are not changing anything. These are some additional opportunities that we have for teachers, to earn, extra money. If they attend training, we pay them $20 an hour. If they tutor kids during, breaks, say winter break or summer break, if they tutor kids, we pay them $30 an hour. And they teach adult education, pay them about $35 an hour. We have not changed those. On page 15, we continue to honor everything we've paid to we are paying to our certificated employees. Now, if one of you becomes an art coordinator, we will pay you an additional $5,000. If you are a music coordinator, we will pay you an additional $5,000. The same goes for PE coordinator, speech and language coordinator, athletics coordinator, or mentor coordinator. And in fact, we have seen that on the average, most certificated employees earn about $10,000 more than their base salary. And then to conclude, I just want to stress that Cartwright is unique in the sense that we are a bedroom community, meaning that we do not have the large commercial property taxes to support high taxes, commercial buildings to support high taxes. We passed a bond back in 2010 before I came here. We were able to remodel with that money. We were able to remodel about 5 schools, and then we ran out of money. And we have 15 schools that have not been remodeled. Are there any teachers from Davidson here? No? From Davidson? How long have you been there?
2 years.
2. Okay, so you wouldn't know about what I'm going to share now. Something happened over there at Davidson. Probably about 5, maybe 7 years ago, somewhere around there, where without warning, some switches just went out, and the entire campus was dark. We scrambled, worked late into the night, couldn't get it fixed. The expert said that the switches have to be manufactured somewhere in the Midwest. In the meantime, we can't close school or close the school because of electricity problem. So we hired a huge generator the size of a semi-truck to power the entire school. And by the time they manufactured and flew the parts, we were out about $250,000. When you add staff time, you add the cost of the generator, you add the increased security that we have to hire, to watch over those. We were at a good chunk of money. And the reason why I say this is because Davidson is one of our newer schools. We have 15 other schools that are much older than Davidson and that are not in great shape as our newer schools. If what happened at Davidson can easily happen at any of our schools, maybe even worse. We have not been able to adopt textbook because of the severe funding shortages that we are getting, capital funding shortages from the states. And because of all these reasons, we have to be extremely prudent in how we manage the district resources. The last thing that I want to talk about is our rating. Some of you live in our community. We currently have a rating of A with Standard & Poor's and also an A with Moody's. Now these are rating agencies, just as you have Experian, for your personal credit and the other ones. We have ratings with them. Now, why is this important? Why am I bringing this to your attention now? Very simple. I told you we issued a bond in 2010. The interest rate that we pay on that bond is directly related to our credit ratings. So our credit ratings are dependent on how well we manage our money. If we overspend our money, then we stand the risk of having worse credit, and then our interest rates will go up, and then our community will be paying more to service those debts that are already out here. Let me give you an example. What is your name? Sue. Sue and I are friends, and we walk into a car dealership, and Sue has an excellent credit, 850 FICO score, and I have 600 FICO score. We go into a car dealership to buy a car. Same car, same everything, but the interest rate that she will be paying on that car will be substantially less than the interest rate that I will be paying because I have that credit. It's the same with organizations. The ratings that you have tells the investors, okay, people buying the bond, okay, is this a safe place? Do they have cushion? If something happens financially, can they withstand it? Should I put my money there? That is why the credit, is important. All right, and I'll be happy to answer any questions now if you have them.
Okay, thank you for coming, and thank you for that presentation, and we hope to see you here at all the rest of the meeting Confer meetings.
What was that again?
Hopefully we'll see you at all the rest of the meeting Confer meetings or anytime we need some financial services. First I want to apologize because I am on the verge of getting sick, so my voice might be a little weak. I do have quite an extensive list of questions, so before I get into them, I just want to kind of preface with I would like these questions to be answered as directly as possible, and I'm going to press if I don't get an answer, and if you don't have an answer tonight, I would like to know that. I think we're ready to begin. So if we go to page 2 or slide 2.
Okay.
And again, I'll just remind everybody who's watching, you can find this slide on the board docs.
Page 2.
So the second slide, right after the cover page. It's 2019-2020 preliminary budget highlights, right here, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so my first question is, I'm looking at this and I'm just kind of curious, what is the district's plan to retain, and maybe this HR can help with this as well, to retain students moving forward? What can we do together to retain students moving forward? Because, we're looking at these numbers and we're saying that something needs to be done. And we're definitely experienced with the canvassing part, and I think that we could get some people that are even here in the audience to team up and do something, but I want to know that there is something in the works.
All right, that's a good question. His question is, what is the district doing to stem the massive decline in student enrollment? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. Great question. Well, if you notice, we are only estimating 200 down, and not 400, not 700. Excuse me. So why is that? Now, we plan to implement, after school program that we will. Now, let me back up. When we asked a lot of parents why they left, and most of them cited one thing: before and after school program. Most of them, majority of them. So we are hopeful that opening up this before and after school program will help the district. We are also hopeful, and you are in the 6th grade reorganization committee, and if that passes or whatever you guys recommend, we are hopeful that will many parents will stay. We have a robust marketing outreach going out, to our community in Spanish and in English. Just yesterday we met with, we talked to an organization that works to get kids from charter school back to public school. So we are doing everything, as you can tell, this kids is all our life, this is a crucially important issue. We get all of our money from student enrollment. So it is a welcome thing that if we can work together, in the outreach, in marketing efforts, in convincing, the best ambassadors that we have out here are the people that are already working in the school sites. You know your schools better than I do. You know that you have music, art, and teach and PE, at every single school, while the charter schools do not have that. You also know that every single teacher, all of you here are highly qualified and you are certificated, which the charter schools do not have. So the best ambassadors that we have to promote our schools to our community, the best ambassadors are you, all of us. Not just the marketing department, but all of us. So there is a myth out there that the charter schools are better than the public school, but that's just that. It's a myth. It's definitely not true. But it's something that we all have to work on.
Thank you. Is my mic working? Yeah. Okay. So I just want to throw the perspective out there before we move on to the next set of questions. That we are more than willing to partner on some sort of canvassing and letting our communities know. Because I do know that some charter schools, what they do is they hire companies to canvass communities to try to get them to enroll. So one of the things that we have an interest in as an association is partnering with the district to go out and tell people why to come to Cartwright. So that way we can make sure we have a healthy budget in the future. The next question I have is looking at years 2016 and 2017, 2017 and 2018. We've been losing students for a while now. So I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but I'm going to ask it. What has the district done since we noticed those declines to bring students back to the district in the previous years? And do we know why parents are leaving specifically?
Another good question. Yes, when we were down 471 in 2016, we were not happy about that. And now, most of you have seen the charter schools with their new campuses and huge marketing budget that they have. We have competed, but the problem is not so much what we haven't done. The problem, as I see it, is the state is actively encouraging kids to go to charter schools. In fact, there was back in 2016, a teacher came to me with a flyer that she had and said, they are sending this to my home. And what did the flyer say? In that flyer was a convention.
Sorry, I want to interrupt just because the question I asked was, what have we done? And I feel like that we're just kind of explaining what's happening.
Everything that I talked about, we've done. We've done the marketing, we've done the outreach. We've spoken to some parents. We have some that have come back. But a lot of them are going. And that's a simple answer.
I was just looking for specifics because I think we're in agreement there that charter schools have become a massive problem with public schools in Arizona, and I think a lot of people in the audience who've been keeping up the Red Red movement are aware of that as well. I think I'm going to delegate to Melanie real quick.
I'm just curious, Mr. Oden, what budget line did that marketing come out of?
They have their marketing budget.
Oh, we don't have a marketing budget?
No, they have their, the marketing department has its marketing budget.
Okay, so
But it's
what fund does that come out of?
overall.
Thank you. So one of the reasons I'm asking this question is one of the things I think we need to start considering is that it is possible that we're losing students for some of these reasons. And I'm bringing this up now because we will be bringing a counter proposal to this salary proposal. But is it possible that we're losing our students because we're not retaining teachers?
Because why?
Because we're not retaining our teachers. And historically, I do want to know, what has our teacher retention rate been in the Cartwright School District? And how is that compared to other districts? Do we know that?
I don't know, maybe HR can talk about teacher retention rates.
I can bring you statistics rather than talking off the top of my head. I think we compare very favorably. It has become much more difficult, I think, in the modern era to retain teachers with the labor market being such that whereas at one time it was pretty difficult to be very mobile and move around. Historically in education, we penalized teachers who moved after their third or fourth or certainly their fifth year. But with the changes in the market, it's really opened it up so people have wanted to explore other opportunities. So I think that's part of the problem. So I could certainly, pull our retention data and share that. I think it compares favorably, and I think it has improved. But again, I think we're fighting against market forces that we didn't have to traditionally contend with.
Okay, I would also, if we could also get the classified retention rate data, I don't know if that's available, and administrator, we would like that data. I think that would be beneficial to these discussions about salary and negotiations if that is available. I bring this up because, and I understand that this is a national crisis. However, I think it's time for districts to start looking at unique and different things that they can do to retain teachers. So even if ours is comparable, how can we take it to the next level? And you'll kind of get this in our counter proposal, but I want to share a quick story. Our secretary and our CEA secretary, Eric Rogers, he's recently had a baby, and I have his permission to share this story here. And what he's been doing, even with the salary that he's getting with the Cartwright School District, he's married, and his wife is a music therapist. He just had a baby this summer, and what he's been doing to afford buying formula for his babies, he's been selling blood. And he's selling plasma, right? So I'm bringing this up because the struggle of the Red movement is real, and I understand that the district does a lot and does try to do their best to make a teacher-centric district. But when we propose our proposal and some of the questions, you'll understand why I tell this story now. But that's happening all over the place. And another thing I'll bring up is, we need to really look into our parents and students and staff feeling safe in our schools, and does that have anything to do with us having a loss of enrollment? And what can we do to fix that? That's not a question I expect you to answer, it's just something I want to bring up. So if we look at current year impact, approximately 7.7 million down. My question is, yes, the size of the budget's going to drop, but doesn't that mean we can cut our operating costs to make it equitable to the amount that we're going to lose in the budget? So we met last summer when we talked about Red for Ed raises, and the district knew then that we were about 1,000 students under enrolled. So since the summer, what has the district done to mitigate the effects of this decline in enrollment to offset the $7 million cost?
The district continues to do everything within its power to stem those tide. I talked to you about the programs that we have. I talked about the marketing efforts that we have out there. I've already talked to you, I've already spoken about television and people.
Sorry, Mr. Oja, the question I asked was about the $7.7 million drop in.
Hold on.
Okay.
I heard your question. I'm trying to answer your question. Your question was, what have we done, since this year?
Okay.
And I'm telling you that we'll continue to do the same things we've done, and we've even.
Can I clarify my question then?
Okay.
So I mean specifically in terms of staffing, where have we cut staffing so that we are spending less money on the budget? Not how are we bringing kids back in, but how are we mitigating the cost of the decline in enrollment?
We're mitigating the cost of the decline in enrollment by, for almost this entire year, not hiring any new teachers when somebody resigned. What we did was, and again, some of you may be painfully aware of it, we collapsed classes where we had severe under-enrollment, and we transferred teachers. So virtually, we did not hire new teachers after we became aware of the shortfall. So that's to the tune of about probably 30 full-time equivalent. In terms of staffing for next year, regular ed staffing was down 64 teachers from the previous year based on enrollment. And it probably, by the time we add in the MAPS figure, that's probably about 12 to 15 additional. So basically, we've been working from within the system rather than hiring. We also engaged in a pretty significant effort to move people where we could out of M&O positions and fund those things as we could with title positions. And we did that in a number of cases. So throughout, recognizing this was a real significant decline throughout, and immediately we've taken actions to do that, which I think I would say have very successfully mitigated a lot of that, saved many millions of dollars. But again, when we're looking at this kind of a decline, we're looking at damage control.
So specifically, have we slimmed down or cut any central services or district office positions since the beginning of the school year?
There may be some that are unfilled. I don't know. We've specifically gone out and said, we're going to cut district office positions because we're short of teacher enrollment at this point now.
Are there any intentions for next year, being down 1,400 students, to slim down the budget for central services or district offices?
There may be some of those. Right now, there are a lot of changes that are going into place. The new superintendent has a number of reorganizational plans, all of which is not totally, I don't think, crystallized yet. But certainly that's a possibility, although I'm not aware of specific plans. But I think we're always looking to work in a more efficient way.
The same question for administration at our schools and general administration being assistant superintendents and superintendent costs. Are there any plans to reduce money there to create more money in the M&O budget there?
Okay, there's only one superintendent, 4 assistant superintendents, so there are no plans that I'm aware of to cut any of them.
Are there any plans to cut any of their bonuses or salaries or anything of that? This is just a question.
Okay, we're not here to negotiate administrative salaries. Okay, that's not on the table. Okay, and you made comments previously in the previous 2 sessions regarding that. So we're not here to discuss that. No, there are no plans to cut that, and I can say that.
So it was just a question, but we are a wall-to-wall association, and we do have administrators in our representation. We do not have general administration in there, but we are a wall-to-wall organization. Hold on. It was just a question, Dr. Murphy, because the point I'm making here is that if we are losing, we are cutting costs in teacher staffing, but we are not cutting costs in administration, general administration, or district services. What that's going to do is narrow the portion of the budget that is used for instruction or used for teacher raises. Is that not correct?
We're all slicing this out of the same pot. However, when you specifically talk about one group of administrators, a very small group, it's, I'm not sure it equates.
Okay.
We have, in fact, with local school administration, we have made adjustments in terms of assistant principals, and we'll continue to look at that, especially depending on what's done with the 6th grade initiative.
Mr. Wilkie, can I just add a couple pieces to what Dr. Murphy said regarding the attrition and how we combat that this year? Still, certainly answering your question. As you know, we did that, and Mr. OJ mentioned this, without riffing and minimizing, and I want to say that carefully, sir, but we did everything we could to minimize any disruption within the grade levels, which affects, of course, the classrooms, and of course affects any campus. So we did that to the best of our ability. As a matter of fact, sir, I believe you were involved with one or two, or you were aware of maybe a few, but I know at least a few where we did some internal shifting, where we were able to do the humane thing by working with the employee and not roughing them, if you will, because we never, that's the first time I used that theory to talk roughing. But again, we were doing everything we could to internalize this within our systems, within our walls, as Dr. Murphy alluded to. The other piece of that is that, again, public knowledge or not, what we began to subscribe to, when I say we, I mean the business office under the direction of Mr. OJ, Dr. Murphy, directing the HR department, we began to internalize many of these positions by internal only positions. So we, matter of fact, I had to, myself personally and professionally, go through 2 chains of commands, sometimes 3, to be able to even post a position, which was the right thing to do at that time in terms of cost effectiveness, in terms of fiscal responsibility. So those things did take place, and then I cheated one more, and last but not least, there were a couple positions that I know for a fact that I sat on some committees that were not filled this year due to where we were at.
And I want to say thank you for doing that. But the point I asked with the mitigation is that if we're using the number based 7.7 million down, based on the calculation of how many students we're going to lose, and we have done things to mitigate that cost, advertising it as $7.7 million down, in my opinion, wouldn't be 100% correct, because we have done things that would mitigate that cost to lower that number. Is that not correct?
Well, it doesn't change the fact that we are down there, whether we have mitigated it or not. We still, if you look at our budget, our adopted to revise, that was money that we yanked out. Now, yes, we've done a few things and we'll continue to do a few things. As a matter of fact, in addition to posting internally only that Mr. Arela talked about, in an effort to save money, we have reduced travel, out of state travel, limiting that to only 1 per employee, and then the board members and assistant SUPs to 2. So those are concrete steps we've taken and continue to take, to mitigate this.
Yeah, I think those are good things, and that's the point I'm making. I guess I would just question again that especially the $7 million down, it would probably be slightly less than that for the current year funding because of the steps that you just mentioned.
Well, it still does not change that we are down 7.7 million. It doesn't change it. And no matter what we do to mitigate, all those things are good and we'll continue to do them. But at the end of the day, we are out 7.7 million.
Correct.
Now, if you're asking me for the net, then you're going to have to say, okay, I only traveled 2 times, how much extra was that? That would be a huge undertaking, and we just don't have the resources or staff to go through that.
Right, and I'm not asking for that. The simple point again that I'm making is that advertising it as $7.7 million in the current year budget would be inaccurate because of the mitigation that we've had. Now, the budget has shrank $7.7 million, or we've received $7.7 million less than we thought we were, but we knew that was coming, so we could have prepared for that. Now, in reference to the RIF comments, we have had several classrooms collapse at my school alone, and I'm sure as some schools in the audience. And I know at my school, at least, we have not received time cards, which brings me back to that point of that number was mitigated at least a little bit because they're not over the
I
classroom
didn't hear
size.
the first part, Mr. The time, right before time card.
We have we've collapsed several classrooms at my school alone, and no teachers have received time cards. This is because they're not over the classroom cap.
Okay.
I completely understand. But my question would be: is one of the reasons that we haven't had to RIF because of the statewide or the national, educator crisis, the not having enough educators anyway. That's one of the reasons we haven't had to RIF correctly, right? Because we have had enough teachers leaving. I know that the budget's still down, and that we've been fiscally responsible over the years. Both of those things, correct? Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say, yes. Because of the teacher market, we have had more people testing other opportunities. So that is, that has helped mitigate against our having to RIF, but certainly. Even without that, RIFing is the last thing we want to do, having been through that in my previous district more than one time. It's one of the most demoralizing, depressing kind of activities I've been engaged in professionally. So, yes, certainly we've tried to craft the staffing in such a way that it would be thoughtfully put together so we wouldn't have to do that. But yes, unquestionably, the labor market has contributed to our ability to not have to RIF.
And then, is it true that the district is still trying to recruit teachers for next year at this moment?
Very much so, yes. And in fact, even with the downturn, I'm anticipating we'll still hire 75 teachers. And I think we have 16 regular ed openings right now. We're trying to finish up a few loose ends with staffing, but yes, we will still hire teachers for next year, so we're still far away from having to think about the reality of RIFing.
So just to make a connection, because it is on the screen here, it says no RIFs, no layoffs, no furloughs. If we're still recruiting teachers and we have had classrooms collapse, it's not this, even though this has been an impact to the budget. I guess I would question that having that up there, again, is slightly misleading because we have been doing things to actively get teachers to come to the school still, in the district still. So saying that, we through all this down, we still haven't riffed or laid off or anything, for me, that feels a little bit misleading simply because we are out actively recruiting teachers, as you said yourself, 75 teachers next year we're expecting. So maybe I'm misunderstanding this, and that's a point I just want to bring up.
I don't think it's misleading, it's factual. No RIFs, no layoffs, no furloughs. In a different kind of labor market, had we experienced this kind of decline, yeah, we would be RIFing. So I think you have to put it into some historical perspective in terms of where the labor market is. But I think it's factual. I don't think it's misleading.
Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. So here I have a couple questions about unrestricted capital improvements. To be clear, is this where the Red Thread District additional assistance is being placed?
Yes. Yes, the unrestricted capital, that is EAA.
And I'm assuming that the answer to this question has been answered, and I'll kind of rephrase it. You can just tell me yes or no. But my question was, why is it not being placed into maintenance and operation? My assumption is that we have schools that need to be remodeled, we can't, we have low property tax rates and so forth. That was the answer to that question, right? Okay. What is the district intending to use this money on? Is the remodeling of schools?
No.
Or is there, can you answer that?
No. We not remodel. To remodel a school, you need to pass a bond. This is just for the basic maintenance. Remember you were asking me for a number earlier on, Melanie, the burn rate that I talked about? This is just to maintain our buses, to buy new buses, replace AC units, water fountains, reseal our parking lots. Those are the basic things, and we need 3.5 million for that.
For myself in the audience, can you clarify burn rate?
Yes, burn rate is the amount of money the minimum amount of money you spend every year. If say as an individual, if you have a fixed say you spend $20 on gas every week, you buy food, just the minimum you need to survive in a week, $50. Transportation, forget about all those eating out or no those are luxuries. If your basic minimum needs are say $100, then that becomes your burn rate. That is the minimum you need to survive. If you get 120, you are doing okay. If you get 80, not 100, you will need to make that up, by maybe doing something. So that is what I mean.
I'm not 100% sure on this, so I want to ask for clarification. The number that's up there, the 4.2 million or so, that's the budgeted amount, or is that the end fund balance for
No, these are estimates for next year.
Okay, so what is the end fund balance of the unrestricted capital account?
We'll know that the year ends.
Do you have an estimation?
Well, we are estimating we're going to spend this.
So that's the estimated spend. So how much will be left after that in that account?
Right now, we don't know. Could be 20. Might be more. We might spend more. What if we have? What if? Huh?
20,000? Or I guess I'm just asking because
you're asking me to tell you what is going to happen. I have no. Your guess is out there.
So you're saying that this is the budgeted amount. This is what we intend to spend next year.
Yes. This
so I'm asking what will be left over.
This is what this is our budget. We intend to spend all of it. Now, maybe we'll spend under, but we intend to spend all of it.
And historically, does the district always spend all of the money that is in the unrestricted capital improvements?
Last year, we didn't get enough. I just got through telling you the story that we received less than we needed, and we had to move money from M&O just to cover it.
Okay, because there is an ultimate point I'm getting to here.
There's one.
So the point that I'm getting to here is that I've been doing some research lately in where district additional assistance was placed, right? So the first thing I kind of want to put out there to the people that are listening is that this money would not be in the district's hands if teachers didn't have their activism over the last 2 years. This is money that came out of 20 for 20, that came out of directly our walkout last year. And I'm looking at other districts. So AEA each year does a cash analysis and gets all of this material from every school district in the state. And I've been given access to our region, which is about 17 different schools, and I want to share some of how the other districts are using this money. Phoenix Elementary School District put 100% of the district additional assistance into M&O, which is the budget that can be used for salaries, rather than the budget here. So this money, the district additional assistance, could be put into M&O. That is correct, right? I don't want rationale, I just want to get
No. I just shared with you, I told you not too long ago that we are not even getting enough. And I also told you that Phoenix, the same district that you're citing, passed a bond that is 269 mil. And I also said that their tax rate, the amount of money that their community is paying, to keep that school, afloat, is less than ours. So it's yeah, we are neighboring, but the fundamentals are completely different. We are not anywhere, close to being a flush, like Phoenix. Yes, you can move this money too, but in our district, because we do not have enough, we are going the other way. We are putting money from MLO to the capital, because the capital we have is not enough. That's what I've been trying to say.
So the money that you've gotten in the last 2 years is money you've been operating without for quite some time. And this is money that you've received from the Red for Ed activism. So the point that I'm making is that some districts have elected to use that money for a variety of things. And I'll go through this list as I was intending to. Phoenix Elementary School District, 100% of that money went into the M&O budget. Phoenix Union, 75% of the money went into the M&O budget. Osborne, a little bit of over 50% went into the M&O budget. Madison, 50% of the district additional assistance went into the M&O budget. Dysart, 23%. Creighton, 55%. Baltz District, 100%. Avondale, 63.5%. Agua Fria, 50%. So out of the 17 districts I looked into, 9 out of 17 districts placed some of this money into the M&O budget. What we've been advocating at this table is that we look at that money and we consider using that and putting it into the M&O budget. Because it has been done in other districts, it can be done, and that's what we're advocating for.
Just because other school districts did it doesn't mean that we are able to do it. And I am telling you that we do not even have enough to operate to run, that we are moving money to show up our capital needs. That's what I'm saying, that we go through last year, this year, the year before. We are going in the other direction because we have 15 schools that are so old and they need a major repair. Just because all the others two that you mentioned did it does not mean that we can do it. We'd like to do it. Now, if we are being funded at 100%, that would be a question that I can entertain. But at this rate, when we are not getting enough, no, not going to do it. That is, we do not have the resources to. Now, if we have to model all of our schools to where Phoenix is, I just got through saying they have one school that is entirely funded by this Phoenix 55 million, an entire school. So they have all the big buildings downtown, that support that tax base. We are far from being the same as them. Okay, we cannot do that in this district. We cannot do that in this district. Go the other way. I'm not going to take money that is meant, to bust our case or fix our parking lots, and then move it to capital, to pay salaries when the basic needs aren't being met. We have some buses that are not even air conditioned. I don't want our kids riding in buses without air conditioning.
Well, while I don't disagree that there are improvements that need to be made to our campuses, I'm bringing this point up because what a lot of districts did with that money last year was that they gave the Red for Ed money solely to the teachers, and then they matched that money with the money from district additional assistance. Now, what we did was we didn't use any district additional assistance, which for those in the audience is why you received a 5% raise instead of something that could have been higher, because we split it up between the teachers and the classified. And I think that I would disagree with some of the things. I do know we just got, was it 5 or 4 brand new buses through one of the grants. I saw that at a board meeting the other day. And I will come back to this later. I think there's money in other places that could be used for some of those things that you are speaking of, especially the carry forward. But for the sake of everybody's time, I would like to move on to the next slide, because I still do have some other questions. I'm sorry, actually, you can go back one actually, this is a question regarding the food services, which I see is a $15 million budget. What was the carryover for last year's food service budget?
I don't have that. Now, the food services are highly regulated. I don't know what that number is offhand, but whatever it is, it's money that can only be used for food services. Now, they do pay indirect costs to the district, but food services money is specialized. We cannot move that, to pay general employees.
Yeah, I'm not having.
Okay. I didn't know where that question was going to.
So, would you consider the 2018 annual financial report a decent guideline to use when discussing this? Okay. So the end fund balance was $5.4 million in food services. I'm bringing this up for a couple reasons, and also it's in here. I'm just notating that $1.5 million was transferred into indirect costs, as you just kind of mentioned. So. At the table, we have proposed to increase the lunchtime, and one of the concerns was the lack of monitors. And I see that on the annual financial report, one of the costs is salaries on there for the food services. And assuming they can only be used for food services, wouldn't a monitor fall under that classification?
I know they pay for food services staff. I'm sorry. Not monitors, but we can look into that. If it's something that is allowable, we'll be happy to do that. But if it's not allowable, they won't do it.
Okay, just because if it can be done, I think it's something to look into, because the estimated cost from the district side of our lunch proposal to provide the monitors that would be needed is about $100,000. So if you took that 1.5 million direct transferred into indirect services and you took the end fund balance, you could fund 70 years of that proposal with that amount of money. Okay. I will also advocate, CA has been advocating for healthier breakfast and having a very large end fund balance. I just will throw out there. It does seem like maybe there's some room to have healthier options for our students. And then if we can go to slide 5, preliminary budget highlights. So I want to ask a couple of questions just for full clarity here. I'll point out I'm sorry, actually, hold on 1 second. I have a question. So all of the salaries up here are intending to go into the base, correct? Okay, and then last year for the Red for Ed raises, people on the auxiliary salary schedule, so speech therapists, occupational therapists, and so forth, were left out of the raises. Is the district intending to include them this year?
Administrators were left out, along with those other groups that fall in that quasi-administrative. It's in terms of the structure of that, it's set up along with administrators. So yeah, our intent is to give those other groups, the psychologists and those other groups.
Give them what?
4%.
Right.
4.5. Yeah.
So they'll fall under the classified?
Yes. Now only
Yeah, they're not classified.
only certificated employees.
So I want to interrupt, please. So Mr. Bagella, please, and folks, excuse me. Mr. Bagella is a spokesperson, so just if you could just kind of work with this, Dylan, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
good. So this way, because it's hard to hear the audible.
Is your question, if psychologists and
In counselors and ISS.
or if they will get 5% of the 4.5?
Yeah, what classification are they under?
Okay, right now, certificated employees, teachers are the ones getting the 5%. Everybody else is getting the 4.5 or the 4%. only certificated teachers, teachers who can draw 301 money. First of all, we only receive $105 per employee. Now, because our average salary is higher than the norm, that means we are not able to give everybody what we really want. Now, there are some school districts that have lower average salary. They can afford 6, 7, 8%. So in our district, we are proposing that certificated employees, teachers with teaching endorsement, get that 5%, and everybody else will get something less.
So, just to be clear, when you say teacher, you're talking about certificated teachers that apply under 301, correct?
Yes, we have some teachers that are librarians, we have some teachers that are, mentors, we have some teachers that are ISS, we have, those are all teachers, in our group. But psychologists to begin with, we start them off, at the higher rate, than teachers, if you look at the scale. Psychologists, speech, therapists, we start them up at a different scale than teachers.
Okay, and then just for clarification, even though people that might be on an auxiliary scale, they start higher, they do have certificates, but you're saying that the 5% raise is for teacher certificates.
Right. If they are currently collecting 301 money, we will give them the 5%.
Okay, thank you.
If they are eligible for the 301 money, we consider them a teacher.
So I'm looking at this, and I know one thing that I can definitely expect from my team, and we'll meet and discuss this over the weekend here, is that we will be looking for there to be the same amount of raise for classified and for teachers. We are all in this together, and in our minds that everyone should be receiving the same amount of a raise in terms of percentage.
Well, hold on. Let me just respond to that. That is a great idea. If we have money, we'll give everybody 5%. Everybody 5%. But we want to make sure, because of the uncertainty going forward, we want to make sure that we have resources, and that we do not overspend. The new superintendent reduced, what we have, for administrators. Not because she doesn't want to give administrators money, but because she wants to make sure that our classifieds and our teachers, get a little bit more money. Now, if we had, the resources, trust me, it would be easier for everybody to just have 5%. And that is what we used to do. That was what we did 3 years ago. That was what we did 4 years ago. But thank you for saying that, because I truly feel that our classifieds should make more, even than the 5%. But we just don't have resources to give everybody what they deserve. But it's a point taken. We'll continue to work hard to save money and to see that hopefully next year we'll be in a better state, and next year we'll try and give everybody the same. You're right. We're all in this together.
Melanie Coble, speaking to Middle the chair. I have a clarifying question.
Mm-hmm.
It is my understanding that that our PTs, OTs, speech pathologists, psychologists, etc., all have to have certification through the state. Is this correct? Certification.
Oh yeah, they do, but it's not teachers. It's not teaching certificate. I have a certificate. I'm not a teacher. We have plumbers that have certificates. They are not teachers. We're talking about teaching certificates. If they are able to collect 301, we consider them teachers.
Some speech pathologist teachers I know for a fact aren't actually teachers. So they have teacher certification.
Okay.
They just may actually be in a different position per se. But they do have certification and they are teachers.
Okay.
Just because they don't have a full class load doesn't necessarily mean that they are not certified as a teacher, just like how an ISS wouldn't have a full class load, however, they are still certified to be a teacher, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they are so there are some that are teachers, correct? Will those be considered to be the 5%?
It's case by case, you know. If are they currently receiving 301, the people that you talked about?
Yes, they are.
Then we'll treat them as teachers.
Okay. My next question is, you were discussing how your PTs, your OTs, your speech pathologists, your psychologists are on a different pay scale. They actually come in at a higher rate. Why is that?
Because of, as a matter of fact, just before I came, their salary schedule, their placement schedule was redone for two main reasons: market condition, and we were outsourcing a lot of the services to outsiders. It was costing a lot of money, and people will come to us, work for agencies, and be making a lot of money. And so the market dictated that we adjust their salary, even the bonuses that we give them, I think maybe 3,000 or 5,000, something like that, was reflective of the market condition at that time. So that is the reason.
Thank you. Just another point of clarification. So if we have them at a high rate for a certain reason to keep up with market value, correct? And we continue to raise teacher salaries and not raise them at an equal point, wouldn't we actually be decreasing that market value and then decreasing their value by not offering them the same percentage rate?
That's a good question, by the way. Now, the answer to that is that we have resources that are limited. Our resources are not endless. And if we had the resources, I will be advocating for all categories of employees to get more than more than we are offering here. But nobody wants to pay anybody less. I am extremely not happy that we are giving the classifieds, for 4.5%. I'm not. I would like to, give them, something higher, a loaf of bread costs the same, no matter who goes in there to buy it, right? So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What's the question?
I want to kind of reiterate this, that the classified are some of the employees that are paid the least in our district. And I think the minimum that we can do is match the amount of raise that we're giving to certified teachers. And I think that's really, really important, and we're going to continue to advocate for that. As for the administrator raise, I am not advocating that administrators should not get a raise. I'm not advocating for that at all. I want to say that first. But I will point out that if we are really looking at a small budget, administrators already get, at least the principals, family coverage for their families on insurance. That happened a couple of years ago when educators got a 1% base pay raise. They get matching 301 money, a law that was designed for teachers to get extra money. They get that matching from the M&O budget. And they are paid pretty well and comparable at the moment to other districts in the research that I've done. And I think most importantly, we might have classified position shortages and we might have teacher shortages, but I do not believe, unless you correct me if I'm wrong, that we have an administrator shortage. So when we look at where the money is going to come from, if there's one place that is going to be cut, I do believe that's somewhere we need to look. Specific question on the matching 301 money is, actually I'm going to say that later when we get to the 301 slide. The last bullet, can you explain that? I lose a little, I don't understand what the 12.5
is. No, that is just, that is our tax rate. So it's 12.5, remember I was saying that we have very high tax rates. By the time you combine our secondary and primary, taxes, we were last year at 12.54, and some other school districts like Phoenix Union, they are probably hovering around 7, even with the 269 million that they just passed, they are still hovering at around 7 or 8%. And so, this is another reason why we cannot have a capital override, because that will increase the tax rate even higher than the average. All right.
Thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Just if you could just very briefly for the people watching, can you explain what ADM is? Just because I don't think that's a term that people are familiar with.
Average daily membership.
Thank you. How much are we expected to see from the Red for Red 2020 plan this year? Is it that $3.5 million number there?
Well, that is all lumped. If you look at that first number that says 4193.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, that 4193 number includes the Red for Ed, which is 105. It includes, the inflation factor of 2%. So the new money we are getting is right here.
So
and then if
you
you go across
the exact number, maybe I'm just misunderstanding. So which figure is the exact number of the new money that we're getting?
Well, the 3.5, but it's not just, the Red for Ed, because it also includes, the 2% inflation factor and all the other, increases that the state gives us. So the new money, is included in that 3.5.
Okay, thank you. So the new money we're getting from the state is about 3.58 million.
Yes, but the total is about 4.7.
Correct.
The total new money, because we also have an override, right?
Yes, and I'll just mention while everybody's here, anyone out there who walked for the override, I want to thank you so much. We did a lot of canvassing, and I believe we were somewhere in between 1,000 to 2,000 doors knocked, which I think is pretty great. We were out there every single Saturday, so thank you.
Very appreciative.
So my next question is, the projected carry forward amount, just to be clear, is 8.3, the 8.3 million number there. The projected carry forward, budgeted savings, is that the same thing?
Yeah, but again, now keep in mind that these are all, projections, all right? This is assuming that our enrollment, doesn't go down substantially, and I hope it doesn't. This is, we are estimating that, but it could go either way, and that's just a fact. So at this point, this is our best educated, calculated guess of where we will be.
Would it be fair to say that this money is essentially, I see it's listed as budgeted savings up there, so to call this savings, we could call this savings for the district, correct? Okay. I see that it says total available up here for 2019 and 20. I was just wondering, what is the calculation that you used to get that number? That's just for the people watching. The total available is the highlighted one right under subtractions from budget.
Okay. How do we get that?
Yes.
All right. So if you look at, I'll go from the very beginning. Start with ADM. Our preschool will have 56 average daily membership. Our K-8 will have 14,992, and then we get our weights that you have to multiply those numbers by. Weights given by the state. If you multiply those, then you have your weighted ADM. That's the number you see to the right. Now, so our weighted ADM comes down to about 19,444. Now, if you take what they call the base support level, which is BSL, that includes the new money from Red for Ed, it includes inflation factor, it includes transportation, TEI, if we qualify within our district, we never qualify for that. If you add all of those up and you multiply it by the weight, that gives you the 3.5 mil that you see to the right here. So that 3.5 mil plus the 537 that we think we're going to get from the override, plus, the Prop 123 money, portion of that Prop 123 money is 4.7 million. Now, if you add that to our estimated savings or carry forward, then you add also the 150,000 in savings from smart schools. Then you subtract, the amount of money that we are losing or that we've lost. Then that is how you get that 5,97629 number. Does that make sense? You're just adding all those numbers to the final column down.
So again, maybe I'll just reiterate this, and this could be rhetorical. But this student, actually, I have a separate question. If we're looking down to uses, because I'd like to look into that more before I ask a question. When we look at uses, I see that it is 4% for admin, 4.5 for classified. It's grouped together. Can you explain why you group those together, and also what is the cost specifically for a 4% raise for admin and a 4.5% raise for classified?
We can separate that. It's matter of expediency, and there will be more columns, down the road. I don't want to go to 2 pages, so it's yeah, we want this to be a standalone page, but we can easily break that out.
Okay, yeah, we would like to see that at the next meeting if possible. And specifically because we would like to know, I was trying to do a calculation for what does a 1% raise cost for classified, and when you group them together like that, I can't do that. Like a 1% raise for teachers under this budget is about 450,000 or so, 460, around that. And it's really important that we have those when we prepare our counter proposal to this. I just maybe clarify, why is phase 2 was negotiated at last year's meet and confer, and then we got a 2% COLA check for it in November for those people at 10 years and up, and we are not getting the same 2% check next year. Why is it factored into this number?
Well, it is factored in here because next year we are going to spend an additional money for those whose 2% were permanent.
Well, I do understand that. I guess.
So in November we gave everybody 2%, but come next year, some group of people will have that money permanent. So we have to pay them, that. Now, for me or for the rest of the people, they're not going to get it, but those teachers who qualify will get it.
Okay, thank you. So the same thing that I did with district additional assistance, I did with carry forward comparison. Because when we're talking about needing to keep the district additional assistant and not having the funds to make some of the improvements that we need. And those improvements could probably, and I want to ask, could the improvements to the schools that we need come from maintenance and operation? Can that money be spent on improvements to schools?
Which money?
Any money in maintenance and operations budget?
Well, their capital items are separate. For instance, AC units, retiring parking lot, those are capital type items, not M&O.
Okay, so if we are unwilling to use the district additional assistance, which we are still advocating to use some of it because a lot of districts have, we are advocating to use some of the carry forward, and here's why. Again, as I mentioned, AEA does a cash analysis across districts across the state, and there are many districts, I use the same districts I've used before, that are spending, or they have a lower percentage of their M&O in carry forward. So to explain that for the audience, right, the percentage I'm going to be using is the percentage of carry forward compared to the amount of money we have in our M&O budget. So I used the 2019 projections here. Phoenix Union is projected to carry forward 6%. I should start. Cartwright is projected to carry forward between 9 and 10% of their M&O budget. Is that correct, Mr. Ojek?
I haven't done that analysis. I know we are carrying about 8 million.
Okay. And our current M&O budget projected on there was around 90 Was it 83 or 93?
About 93.
93. Okay, so I think that ends up being about 8 to 10%. If you look at Phoenix Union, their percentage of the carry forward that compared to the M&O budget is 6%, which is significantly less, and they put 75% of the DAA into M&O budget. Osborne has a 3.3% comparison to their M&O budget, with adding 50%, which is almost 3 times less than our carry forward. Madison, 4.1%, with 50% into district additional assistant. Into M&O. Littleton, 3.64, they did the same thing with us with the district additional assistants. Litchfield, 6.9, Isaac, which is our neighboring district, 0.74, not even a full percent. Dysart, 7.24. Creighton was actually above ours at 11.7. Buckeye, 0.37. Buckeye Union, Buckeye L, 6.07. Balts, 7.84, 100% of DAA is in the M&O, so that then increases the M&O. Avondale, 3.09, with 63.5% in M&O of their district additional assistance, so again, inflating the M&O budget. Alhambra, 4.92, and Agua Fria, 5.91. So, with 50% of their district additional assistance M&O. So, several years ago, the state used to have a law that required the district to cap out at carrying 4% of their M&O budget carry forward. We are over double that according to this preliminary budget. It's really high in comparison. 13 is higher than 13 out of 17 districts, and our suggestion is that we should use some of this money now and reevaluate later so that we can retain teachers now, because in my opinion, the irresponsible thing isn't spending money, it's having money and not spending it when you can be using it to help kids and teachers and families.
Well, I think, you gotta go, the other way. We are not, by any stretch of imagination, awash with money. Now, while we are estimating that 8 million, it can very well go the other way. In an era of major student decline, it's not the time to be, thinking about spending money that you don't have. The 8 million that I, talked to you about could very well be less than that. But we are hopeful. Now, I am not going to be an advocate to spend money because, now all those numbers you mentioned, when I came in here, we were not able to carry over anything. As a matter of fact, it was extremely hard. So it has taken us 7 years to get to where we are, where we can have some solid, money to move forward. Now, I do not see what you say that we are awash in cash and we should spend this. The budget that I presented to you here is true and accurate. And as a matter of fact, my staff is telling me that the 200 that we are estimating for next year is extremely, optimistic. So to add on top of that to spend, no, it's not prudent and it's not wise.
I will just clarify, I never said that we were awash in cash. All I did was compare the amount of carryover we have in comparison to other districts. So we are carrying over more money and saving more money than other districts. Well, what we will see advocated from this side of the table is that we use some of that to stop the decline in enrollment by retaining teachers, by supporting proposals that will help retain teachers that we have at this table. And even if you did pass all of our proposals, it would take many years for that budget to go down. And there always is an opportunity next year. If we do spend more this year, we evaluate and say, hey, this didn't work. Our carry forward isn't as strong as it needs to be, but we are over double the legal limit. The legal limit used to be to carry.
Something is not right because I don't think that I'm getting through. Something is definitely not right. That 8 million, if you look at that, has already been spent. We've already shown you how we are going to spend that money. So that 8 million is spent, it's gone.
So then, my understanding is you're saying that we will not have a carry forward for next year then, what you're just
That
saying.
is a carry forward, but we are going to spend this money next year. We are going to incur costs, we are going to get the COLA from. That money is coming from somewhere. We are going to pay the SRP increase from. That money is coming from somewhere. Yes, we are carrying over 8 points, something mil, but the money is already being targeted to be spent next year. So it's not that the money is out there sitting, out in a part of, waiting for it to be spent. No, we are carrying over, but we also have expenses for next year, and that is the uses of fund. That is what we're showing there.
Okay. So I think we either have a complete misunderstanding or what you're saying is inaccurate. Because so what was last year's carry forward? What did we carry? What did we bring over from last year? Because I have the 2018 AFR.
You can mention it, I'll let you know if it's. And don't forget, because of last year's carryover, that is probably how we are able to get that 8 million. Because if we have 0 carryover last year, this year we would have up to 2 million or 3 million to carry over.
I think we have a. I don't feel like we're presenting this accurately. What a carryover is. So will you clarify what carryover is? Because you have it up there as budgeted savings for the next year's budget.
Yes. Carryovers are the amount of money you carry over to the following year that you didn't spend this year. Now, that doesn't mean that you do not have plans for that money for next year. Carryover does not mean that you are carrying this money and then the money is being set aside, in the banking, checking account or, out there untouched. That's not what carryover means. Carryover just means, that you underspent your money this year, your budget this year, and then you are carrying over to the following year. But it is not definitely not money set aside unencumbered, and reserved for spending. No, we are showing you in the interest of transparency that this is money that we're not going to be able to spend and that will carry over, but those monies will be spent next year. So that's what carry over.
So by next year, are you talking about 2021?
No, I'm talking about next school year.
So you're saying
we are 1920.
So
we are 1920 now. So 2021. Yeah.
So again, to clarify, and you're saying that the $8.3 million carryover from last year will all be spent next year.
No, the 8.3 is this year.
Right, that's this year's carry forward to
next year. That's what
and so what you're saying is that the district intends to spend all
Yes, that's what we showed you on the uses. That was the whole idea of showing you the uses of fund, uses of the money that we have. That was the whole idea of going through that.
Okay.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be any point.
So, let me, so one piece, Mr. Miguel, if I could just remind the CEA team that we discussed already, and obviously Mr. OJ presented that today, is that a couple pieces. One is the current formula for the current budget and how it's formulated now is different than it's been the last 3 years, obviously it was. So that complicates things, correct, Mr. OJ?
Yeah.
One. The other piece is that, and it's not necessarily a philosophical difference because I understand where you're going from and with in terms of let's spend the money while we can. Now, if we would have done that this year, it would have been very difficult to have not only supported and taken care of our teachers and faculty and staff and their families, of course, because we didn't rift, because we were able to support the and I said this all along, Dylan, Mr. Magella, and CA team, that I've crafted this message along with Dr. Murphy, that we, this school year, 18-19, have been appropriately staffed, under-enrolled. Right? We didn't project 1,600. So certainly that would have complicated things this year if we would have not been fiscally responsible. So as we look at next year, my final statement with this, as we look at the 19-20 school year, I mean, we're being optimistic, as Mr. OJ and his staff has said, that it's 200 behind it. If it's not, and if it's more than the 200, there's going to be some major conversations we're going to have, correct, sir?
Major.
So another piece that I have the mic, it's 6:15, and I want to be very respectful to our time. This was a rescheduled meeting, and the only reason I say that is because we obviously needed to reschedule it from the March 7th. I know other people, many people may have had plans already for that. So if it's okay with CEM, what I'd like to do is at least a few more minutes, maybe till 6:30. I know you have a few more questions, so that's what I want to do. Okay?
Let's make sure I get the proposal.
Yeah, and then I do have the, I'm sorry, I do have the proposal I want to at least present to you while I'm doing this, and then you can finish with a few more questions.
I have quite a few more questions that are extremely important. And I would like for the district, I know that we have the ability as chairs, and I don't expect anybody to stay for them, but I would ask the district's team to stay a little later today. And these questions are very important when we're talking about budget and we're talking about salary, because so that would be my proposal from the team is that we make it through these questions, because there are quite a few more that I have.
So as the chair for the board team, we could consider caucusing and discussing this, but how many more questions about how much longer? Only because I want to be respectful to, again, we talk about respect, it's mutual.
Yes.
Okay.
I am not sure. It depends on how the questions are answered. If there's rationale provided, as I mentioned, some questions need rationale, some are quick yes and no's. And I do honestly feel that sometimes a yes or no question or a specific question has been taken off on some kind of explanation, which I'm not trying to get a rationale on everything. I'm just wanting a specific question like, yes, this is what that is, or no, this is not with the explanation. Because there's points that I'm going to be making that require the audience to know what I'm talking about, but also they know that I'm talking about the correct thing. So I can't estimate the time. I think there's a lot of variables.
Okay, so, does the board continue caucus or?
No need to call.
So here's what I'd like to do then, out of respect to the process, once again, if you could, again, it's not only how we answer the question, it's how we ask it, right? So if you ask a question, and again, frame it, you've been doing that, yes or no, and then we can answer the question to the best of our ability, and if we can, then we'll follow.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
In the meantime, what I want to do is I want to pass out the proposals that we have. Okay. Go ahead.
So I just want to one last time clarify this, Mr. Ojik. This is the way that you're advertising it. Here's the way that I'm understanding it. So if we were to go directly down that line, that bottom number is what the district will have left over going into 2021. So we will be in the red going into next year according to this budget.
Yes, give or take, but don't forget, that those are all estimates. All right, those are all estimates, and it could be, a wash, it could be less, but definitely we don't want to, overspend, and we have contingencies. Yeah, we might not have any.
So under the current proposal, there will be no carry forward going forward to the next year.
No, that's not right. It's not on that sheet. It's not on that piece of paper.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, because if that is true, then we have to have some conversations about this. But again, if all of last year's carry forward is in there, and you go straight down the list and add it up, so after all of the M&O budget is spent next year, you're estimating that our carry forward will actually be a negative.
No, because number one, we don't know how many people, we don't know what the budget savings is going to be next year. We have 93 mil. We don't know how many people, will hire, midstream, how many people will quit, how many people, what our E-rates, will be. We don't know any of those. No. All we are saying that given at this point in time, that based on the amount of money that we have, extra money we have coming in, this is how much we plan to, and this is how we plan to spend it. That is what this is. This is not saying anything about budgeted savings. This is not saying anything about how much, you're going to have because all of those are unknown. We don't know what that will be next. It could be, 2 mil, it could be 3 mil, it could be 0. We don't know.
So I think that is the point that we've been trying to make from the side of the table is if it's not up there, what is the projected carry forward? There's got to be an idea.
Well, I can't, that would just require, a huge, that would require us, going to, plus everything we're doing is an estimate anyway. I can just give you a number and that is what it is. I can say it's going to be 200,000, 500,000. It's just going to be a number because
right. Because you just told me that all of last year's budgeted savings will be used, and then you just now explained to me that you don't know if we'll have 2 or 3 million. So you told me to read this down the line,
right?
Which has the budgeted savings from last year in there,
right?
So if we saved 8.3 million last year, my assumption is that means that the district would likely save something around that amount this year as well?
I cannot tell you that. Not when we have 1,400 kids down this year. When we did this budget, we were not estimating that we're going to be down 1,400 kids. We did not, it came as a huge surprise. Now, next year, if we were to be down 1,000 kids, believe me, we're going to be having a different set of discussion, not about, what is, budget balance carry forward.
Okay, I think we can move on. Here we go, sorry.
I understand that you don't probably have those numbers and figures in front of you right now, but just like how you projected this amount of budget for next year, I would really appreciate seeing those numbers and how much you project. Again, knowing that they're not set in stone, we would like to know what the projected savings will be after this budget right here is implemented for next year. What would be the carryover? Because we will eventually get that in our state reports. Because it's transparent. The budget should be transparent because that's the law. But we would like to know what you would project it to be, because I'm sure you guys money crunch, and it would be very prudent of you to know that number. So we would just like to, if you could give us an approximate at least of what that number could be.
Everything we do is, out in the open. All of our records are the state, we don't, you get everything, from there.
So then we can expect it next meeting then, approximately.
I'm telling you, any number I give you is just going to be that. I can give you a number, it's just going to be that. It's not going to be rooted on anything solid because you're asking me to, look into the future, and estimate. I'm going to tell you 200,000. I'm going to tell you 2 mil. I'm going to tell you 1.5 mil. I'm going to tell you 100,000. That is not, that. Let's deal with this year. Next year, when next year comes, we'll worry about next year. If we have money, next year, we'll carry it over. If we don't, but I'm not going to say, let's start spending money because we think that we are going to have this left. No, that's not how I'm not going to be spending money based on what I think I'm going to save. I'm going to spend money that we have, identified here. And that is why we have that, budget balance carry forward. Because we have it now, so we can spend it. Now, next year, if we have, less, if we spend less, then the following year, we can spend it. But I cannot advocate to spend money that you hope you are going to save. What is something like Davidson happens at 2 of our schools, and we've already spent the money? I am not going to be a party to that. Not going to be an advocate for that.
This is the last thing I will say, and if someone on that table needs the last word, that's fine. But again, if you're in your calculation, you're using our enrollment drop. We're budgeting for next year. We know what an idea of what our enrollment will be for the next year. And we have had some cost savings this year. So I would imagine that the number, I would dispute the numbers here, but I think you've made your case and I've made mine, and we can table this until another time we're talking about carry forward. Can we go to the next slide, please? I just wanted to bring up that some of these numbers are not listed as the one-time bonus or stipend that they were, especially last year's. So those November checks, for some teachers, they were paid out as a base salary raise, and for some they were not. They were just like myself. included in that. And then in those numbers, I would again say that 8.5%. A lot of that money did come from the actions that teachers made on the ground at the Capitol. Just wanted to throw that out there, but we can move on to the next one. Oh, then the 2017-2018 numbers, it says 3%, but then it says 4% on the base and 3% in November. That didn't add up to me. But I don't need that baseline because of the time. So let's move on to the next thing. Slide 8, please. So I did want to share some language that I pulled from the Arizona Department of Education about Medicaid reimbursement funds. This is what it says on their website. Currently, schools can receive reimbursement for physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, nursing services, health aides, certain transportation, and behavior health services. These activities are considered direct medical services, and reimbursements for these services handled through direct service claiming. So those students that apply that are students that would qualify for Medicaid, correct? Which I would imagine is we have a significant portion of our population would qualify for that. My question is, I'm looking at the last 10 years of the district. I see that right now our Medicaid reimbursement fund is at the highest it's been in the last 10 years. Maybe you can clarify this. If we can use it for behavioral health services, can we not at least bill Medicaid or use some of that funds to hire things like social workers? Because Oakland is a school that is doing that. Oakland School District.
Well, that money, you can spend that money on any eligible MRO purpose. And what we've chosen to spend it on in our district is to save that money for student device testing, because and to pay for accrued time that people have on the books. Right now, we have about $6.7 million in liability. $6.7 million in liability that the district owes its staff. So that is how we chose to spend that money. And this and the indirect indirect costs.
So yeah, and then I think there's $6 million in indirect costs, which is also the highest it's been in the last 10 years. And I understand your concern for if teachers leave, you have to pay them out. But like you said, you said it's around 7. Is it 7 point something in liabilities for that? The scenario where half or even all of staff leaves at the same time is impossible, I would argue. True. So those funds and those accounts are very, very healthy right now, especially in terms of the last 10 years. One thing that we're experiencing a lot of problems with around the district is behavior and safety and student success. And if we can use this money for the Medicaid to pay for social workers, and that is something that we are advocating from this side of the table that we look into.
I can tell you, that if you go through, and no, we are in support. We are in agreement, because if you go through our last board packet, you will see that we have just the board has just approved for a director of social and emotional learning, a director, but we do agree, that there is a need, not only here but across the nation, to attend to kids who have emotional needs, and you're preaching to the choir. Now, with regards to these funds, though, my staff calculated $14 million as replacement cost, not one for one, but just to service our current computer needs, in the district. 14 mil. Together we have 10. We haven't even looked at the approved time.
Can I just quickly ask, when you say replacement costs, my understanding is you were talking if we were to replace all of our computer needs?
Yes, over time, yes, but we are looking at 14 mil.
So
and in the next 18 months, all of our devices will not be supported by the manufacturers. Yeah,
Right.
those are the
And
Chromebooks.
I remember hearing that I was on the assessment committee. But again, a lot of our technology, I know
Go ahead.
my district computer is in great shape. So again, you can throw numbers out there like that, but again, it's unreasonable to assume we're going to replace all of our technology at one time. There would obviously be a rollout plan in place over the course of time, which would then, again, there is a lot of money in there. Like for example, we have more money in indirect services than Phoenix Union, and they have close to twice the size of our M&O budget. I'm just throwing this out there because I understand what you're saying, and I'm not advocating to spend it all at all. But if we can look at Medicaid reimbursement and spending it to do what's best for our kids now, because the revenues we brought in last year were $880,000. That's enough to pay for 15 social workers and probably even more. So we're talking about our kids here. I'm not talking about a race for us. I'm talking about making sure that we have social workers in our schools. And I think if we're going to be spending them this money, that would be an appropriate use for it. We moved.
Yeah, next question. First statement, please.
Next slide, please. I already kind of made my claim here. I just one thing I'll say is that I know that the money that we should be getting from the state would leave us with a deficit if we were in a perfect world, which I think is what you're trying to advertise here. But I will again point out that that money does not come to us in the last 2 years without the activism of teachers. So advertising it as a deficit, I feel, is a little bit misleading simply because that is money we brought back to the district. And we can move on.
Well, I certainly disagree. These are numbers online. These are facts. Now you can spin it, say it's not. But if we were receiving all the money that we're entitled to, we wouldn't be having this discussion now because we'll have money to meet all of those needs and to do more. Yeah. But we are down. As a matter of fact, 1 year we were down 86%. 86%. 1 year.
I hear you, Mr. OJ, but what I'll say is the district additional assistance doesn't come back to the school without 70,000 people going to the Capitol last year.
And trust me, we are not only teachers, administrators march too. Right. Okay, so this was a united thing, that happened. Yeah, it was led by the teachers, but many administrators, and non-teachers also, supported. So it's
some of these actions were also predicated on the lawsuit, right?
Yeah. The lawsuit that was out there, absolutely.
Correct. And I would also, and I'm not just making, so I'm just saying that when we advertise it this way, I just think that there could have been a different way we could have presented the information. And administrators, we were all there. The whole district supported. You guys were there too. But I think that needed to be said. Okay, we can move on. Thank you.
New slide?
Yes, please. My question for this was, I was looking over our compensation packages on our website, and I noticed for assistant superintendents and for administration that they get matching 301 money. I want clarification on how much that is. Is it the total number at the bottom, or is it a certain part of the 301? What does that look like? It says equivalent to what the teachers get paid, and I just want clarification on what that looks like to kind of get a cost analysis.
It's this one. Testing. I don't know.
It's.
Here we go. You there? I don't know.
Okay.
It's a 301 equivalent. Actually, two years ago, I believe, your team introduced a partial 301 payment for administrators based on certifications. What evolved as administrative salaries were restructured, this is one of the things that was added. It is would be the 7,500. So it's an equivalent amount for administrators out of M&O equivalent. to the amount of 301 monies that teachers receive.
So maybe sorry, kind of got lost there. 7,500 is what it would be next year then. Okay. So again, we've lost 1,400 students. We are increasing the 301 money because the law states that teachers are supposed to get the 301 budget. But when we provide a match, and especially when we're increasing that would then, according to the language, increase the bonuses that administrators and assistant superintendents get, which would then shrink the portion of the part of the M&O budget, again, which could be used for teacher classified salaries or instruction.
So I guess we're all in the same boat except for administrators.
Exactly.
You keep denigrating administrators.
I'm not denigrating.
You have no idea what administrators do or how hard they work. I'm tired of hearing it.
I'm not denigrating. Okay? I'm not denigrating. I'm making a point that if the 301 money, because that's a special pot, right? It's separate from M&O. So when we pay out more M&O, it's going to be an increase in the admin bonus, which would then lower the M&O budget.
When this proposal passed, your group clapped, because they had been advocating for that for the longest time. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, pitting two groups of, categories of employees together is never a good idea. We've never said, it's, this against the teachers. We've never said, is this against, the classifieds. All categories, contribute, and to be constantly picking on administrators, and hammering on them is counterproductive because, number one, you do not negotiate for the administrators. They, you do not, no.
You just said that we negotiated that.
No, you do not.
Let's read the definition.
You do not negotiate for administrators.
Hey, can we calm down just for a second? Because all I'm making a point is that we're talking about cutting teacher staff, and we're talking about loss of enrollment. But we have not talked at all about the cuts coming from the top of the school district. Think about that for a second. I'm not saying you shouldn't get a bonus. I'm not saying that you don't work hard. I'm not saying that I don't value you. I love the administration on my campus. All I'm saying that is if our budget is shrinking and we're not cutting anything at the top, there's something wrong with that. Do you not agree with that?
2 years ago, we restructured administrative salaries because we were among the lowest in the West Valley based on all the research we had done. The conclusion was that we were unable to attract quality administrators or even from within our own group because our pay was so significantly lower. So I think the sentiment of that was, the leadership in the schools, the people you have to lead you, are going to be better quality if we actually support administrators and do realize, we're all in this together. The administrative ranks are significantly smaller than the teacher ranks. So you're talking about a much smaller group. Yes, you can cut, and you're right. Yeah, there's one pie we're taking the M&O out of. But it seems to me, over the last 2 or 3 sessions, you tend to be targeting administrators and questioning in such a way that it sounds like you don't think we're earning our money. And specifically, you've targeted assistant superintendents, which I take offense to. I earn every cent of my money.
Okay. So I want to bring this up. Okay, there's a point to this. You said that it was fiscally irresponsible to get something that felt like a bonus to teachers who had involuntary transfer. You said that there's a time where I had to just do what the district needs me to do. So the point I'm making, and it's not that I don't value you, Dr. Murphy, is that you said those words. I have it written down. I looked at it last night because I know that you said it. You said sometimes that you got to do what's right for the district and not get a bonus in a certain situation. You're talking about involuntary transfer.
You're taking it out of context and trying to play it on this. What I was talking about was the notion that as a professional, there are times when the district needs you to step up and transfer or do something different. not because that's your personal preference, not because anybody wants to do that, but because that's what's best for kids, because you don't have enough kids there to teach and we didn't move you somewhere else. My comment was indicating, it seems to me, you know, as I think through my 49 years in public education, I've been asked at times to step up and do what my employer needed, even if I didn't really want that. So just to hand out money to people when we have to transfer them, no, that doesn't sit well with me. But I think you're making a false analogy here.
Let me make my analogy. If you disagree with that, it's fine. My analogy is that if we're defining that money as a bonus, the 301 money, okay, and if the district is losing funds, and you said it's fiscally responsible to pay a teacher who has to transfer mid-year, and you should do what is the best for the kids. I'm not saying that this is what should happen. I am making a point that if we are hurting on money, which is what this proposal has said, we should look at where to cut that. And maybe, just maybe, there are some people, our highest paid employees might not need the bonus, and maybe the bonus should go somewhere else. That is all that I'm saying, Dr. Murphy. I appreciate you in this district. I appreciate the work of our assistant superintendents, our superintendents, and our admin. This district would not run without them. But it also would not run without the teachers.
So, Mr. Really made your point. Can you continue? Next question.
Well, I have a quick question. I would really appreciate, because I'm looking at the pots, I'm very proficient in the paper performance, because I sit on the committee, and I'm very thankful for everybody working together in cooperation with that. I appreciate that. I'm looking at the totals there, and I'm wondering, I'm looking at the 6,500 from last year, and then the proposed 75 for next year. And I know for a fact that not every teacher will be receiving the top amount of money. For instance, some teachers will not be putting in for 2 endorsements, some will not be putting in all of their clock hours, some will not qualify for the 2,100 because they are not in that ranking for the teachers. They could possibly receive 1,500. So my question is, what is the plan for principals who are not performing up to par, or will they still be receiving, the 7,500 total? And is there an actual plan written out how that money is like it is for us per se? Like maybe because some of that's added to the base, some of that's a bonus check, some of it is based on endorsements, some of that money is based on classroom funds and improvement. I'm fully aware of all of those things. So my question is, what is there a prorated amount like it is for teachers?
No. We're talking about equivalent, right?
No.
No, there isn't. So they get the full 7,500 regardless of their score or big performance.
Just as, if you look at this thing, 95% of our teachers are effective or highly effective, okay? Maybe 94, 93%. So they're getting they would get the full 2,100, okay? So very small number would be getting the 1,800. And even teachers that are ineffective are getting 1,500, which we might debate, but anyway. No, there is no plan to do that.
Okay, my next question is, well, similarly to that, we also have to turn in extra paperwork, extra endorsement information, extra clock hours and information, and all of that paperwork in order to submit to get that full total amount, to which some people do not get, because they don't either have those endorsements or they don't. So my question is that it's different for every teacher in the district. It's not saying it's unique, depending on the teacher and what they can handle. Because some teachers cannot handle taking classes and doing that extra above and beyond because they have a full family to support and they have 2 or 3 jobs. So they don't get that full amount of money. So my concern is if there's a prorated ability and a plan in place for a superintendent, it's also not a similar plan and equal to that plan of teachers. That's just my observation. I just want to make it clear that we are all, even though we sit at the across the table in negotiations, I truly believe that we're all here. We're doing what's best for kids. That is absolutely why we are here. We want to retain quality teachers so that we can provide the best services for our students. That's our whole goal. It even says here to increase student achievement. And by no means are we denigrating anybody. We are discussing how our money is spent in a transparent process. So the fact that we are being accused of denigrating as a team, the administration, is just completely false, and it actually denigrates us and our credibility. And so I really appreciate us refraining from using those types of language at this table. It is very bad optics. It is not how we want to present ourselves, and it's not how we want to do what we want to do moving forward. However, we know that there's going to be disagreement at the table. We know it. That's a part of this process. And it's okay to walk away from this table and disagree, but it's not okay to name call and to assume things and to put things in people's mouths.
So I agree with that, and I think I've mentioned this in our group norms, every meeting for a reason. I hope you've all heard, is that I think if we could continue to respect, and this is an emotional process. That's the message that I shared before with other stakeholders in the district, including this team. It's emotional. To the point that one of your team members here last session, let's move forward. I get them as Cobos, but took offense, and that was the word. Maybe not the word that Dr. Murphy used earlier, but took offense to the fact that an age factor was I think taken out of context as well. And if you recall that, and I don't want to get into it, and you don't remember it? Well,
No, I remember it very clearly.
Okay, so Mr. Vogella took offense to the fact that Dr. Murphy made a comment about age, and he was contextualizing the fact that he'd been and has been in the business for over 40 years. I'll leave it at that. I won't give you the exact number. And again, Mr. Vogella got a little emotional, upset, and I would say upset, emotional, but upset. And I took offense to it. Those were his exact words. He took offense. So that wasn't the intent. So again, we get that. We realize that we'll move forward. So that's my statement.
Yeah. So and just to kind of go on that, I did get a little bit upset.
You said offensive, right?
I did take offense. Okay. Just like I will take offense that I'm being accused, at least of denigrating administrators for simply asking questions and asking how money and where it is. I've done really nothing but ask questions and then maybe provide an alternative way we can fund things. And I truly do feel that way. And so just because I'm asking questions that deal with a certain category of salary does not mean the same as a statement about how much those people are making. It's for transparency reasons and so forth. Thank you. If we could move to the next slide. And we can move past this one, go, and then one more. We can move on again to 14. I just have a question here, but I'm going to move it to later because of time. It's not super important. If we go to 16. One more, please. My question on this was about my understanding of the carry forward, which I think we're going to need to have a further discussion on at another time on really what I mean, because I don't think we're understanding each other. I don't know if you have an estimate. I was just curious. It says textbook adoption. What's the cost estimate on that? I know that you probably don't have that number. I don't have an idea.
No, I don't. But it's
several million.
It's expensive.
Several million.
Depending on the content.
It depends on the content. It depends on the number of kids, and it's anywhere from 2 to 7, 8 mil.
And we would love to know for both the 15 schools remodeled and the textbook adoption, what's the reasonable rollout plan? Because obviously you're not going to remodel all 15 schools in 1 year, or you're not going to get new textbooks each year.
I can tell you that there's no plan to remodel next year because we don't have the money. There's zero plans. So.
Okay. And if it is possible, I know you mentioned that maybe it wouldn't work in our community, but we have a mutual interest in working on a bond to remodel our schools. if that is possible, to get a bond in our neighborhood, if it is something possible together.
Well, we don't have the capacity. That's the problem. The way it works, is your property values, the value of your property determines, how much, you can tax, and there's a whole bunch of formula. But we do not have the capacity right now, and you've already seen our tax rate. It is one of the highest. And I can't go to our community members that pay the bills and say, I want to tax you, so we can get more money to do that, we don't have businesses here that will support, our tax rate, as business, and also even further, develop their commercial buildings. But, if I am really, interested, if we can work together, CEA, all the employees, to reach out to our community, to sell our schools, to market our schools, to see if we can get, you guys know the kids that have left, your classes, to see if we can get some of those kids back. That is a joint effort that I think will yield a lot of dividend. Nobody got us to success, we will share the success, but we'll be better off, as an organization. I thought, that would be the line.
I had one final thing, and then I don't know if it's worth discussing these proposals. I will, we have some procedural talk at the end, but I just, we've asked some really tough questions, so I want to thank you for fielding them. I'm sure that this is probably one of the first times you've received this many amount of questions. And I want to thank you for answering to the best of your ability. I do believe that we can be the most teacher-centric district that there is. I would claim that while we are teacher-centric, I'm not sure we are the most teacher-centric. And I really think that we are going to move forward in this district together really well. One of the reasons I'm bringing up so many financial questions is because every single financial proposal we have proposed at this table has had the financial part stricken through. And our analysis of the budget with AEA's help has led us to believe that there are different pots that I've mentioned tonight that money can come from. And AEA does this across the state with every district every year. They're a huge organization, and it's not like we're just citing random things out here. So my thing is that if we're truly negotiating here, I would like to see some movement on some things that we are proposing that have to do with finances, because we do believe that there are finances available. And that is why I keep bringing up these very tough questions, because I feel like we have stalled on a lot of these things. And I don't think that that is the way that this should go. And maybe the district's not used to having a team on this side negotiating the way that we are. But this is post-Red for Ed. Teachers have found their voices. They have found their activism. I think that this isn't uncommon. These questions coming from states that have strong unions, coming from the state of Michigan, this isn't uncommon sort of questioning and wanting to have equal participation in some of these things. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate every single one of you, and thank you for listening to us tonight.
So, Mr. Rogella and CEA team, as we move forward, what I'd like to do is, at this point in time, is quite frankly, I want to be respectful. And it's not being disrespectful to time, please, it's not, and certainly to the audience as still is here. But certainly we have a scheduled meeting next week, next Thursday. We will move forward. Certainly we have some agenda items that we could that we'll have to move forward with as we continue to process proposals. There's a few that I think you still needed to speak on, because I recall that you did hand them to us, and then you didn't get an opportunity to respond or to rationalize it, with the exception of us reading. One, two. Let me just end on a couple of things, if I could. 10 seconds of my commercial, and please, the respectful one. And that once again has to do with not necessarily comments or statements, but sentiments. So just so we know, let the record reflect that we are being as transparent as we can. We really are. When I say as we can, I mean, there's some things we cannot project and or speculate. One thing I've learned about business and finance, Mr. OJ has taken care of his own, and and his department is that I'm not in that lane. I'm not in that lane, I'm not a business finance guru, but I do know in terms of fiscal responsibility, I will say again, 1,400, a little over 1,400 students under enrolled this year. And I'm sorry, folks, because you've heard it many times already from me, and I think staff members may have. 1,400 under enrolled, but we were appropriately staffed. We did everything we can from the HR. So although it sounds personal, like I'm not patting myself, but what I am saying is the HR department works very closely with the business finance department. Hence why we're here and moving forward. Students, you sentiment you talked about, that's who we're here and what we're here for as well. We really are. I mentioned fiscal responsibility, red for ed. There's no question. And I will publicly say, and I haven't in a while, that both my sons are educators, and both my sons participated in Red for Ed. And both my sons and I have these conversations. So believe me, I do know it's a very involved process, and one that doesn't happen overnight. So thank you for that effort. With that said, as we move forward, I am, I like to move side of my eye and see if there's a motion to adjourn. Only because, again, we are meeting next week, and then I think you mentioned, I don't know if we need to talk offline about the agenda, but I mean, we do have a couple proposals that we haven't addressed yet, and again, obviously you're going to count. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah,
not my fault. I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, it's my fault. I've given each of your members the proposal right now, so that'll give you an opportunity to write. And I think you mentioned both the calendar and see where we're at with that process.
The only thing, I'm okay with moving the conversation about individual proposals. I would like to talk about procedure, which is item G1, if that's okay, really quick.
Okay, absolutely.
So we have some counter proposals to involuntary transfer, a counter to the counter, and to school schedules that we want to leave with you. I think we've made some movements on that. But I think moving forward, I think that the next meeting, in terms of anything but salary, should be the last meeting that either side brings any new proposals to. If that's an agreement?
Say that again.
So the next, besides salary proposals, the next meeting should be the last meeting that either side brings proposals to, because I don't think we'll make
any new
through.
proposals?
Yeah, the next one will be the last.
Got you. Okay.
And I also think that before the next meeting, say Tuesday, if there are any counters from the district side that we haven't received yet, if we could receive them by Tuesday, and any new proposals we have, we could give them to you by, let's say, before Wednesday, so Tuesday night. Is that something that the district would agree to, so that we have time to review before the table, so we can maximize our time here?
As a chairperson, what I could say, it sounds a little political. I try not to sound political. We'll do everything we can to get that to you. But meantime, what I did hear you say is you are going to leave some counters to our counters, right?
Yes.
And then so by Tuesday, and again, thank you, Elza, because Mrs. Macias is really the go-to person, and these board docs are coming up, and we're trying to get everything in place. So absolutely, okay.
And I think lastly, I just had a question. Will Mr. OJ be returning with the district's side of the table for the next
Do
meeting?
you want me here next week?
I would like you here to see our counters in terms of finances, because
I'll be here.
thank you.
I wasn't planning, but I'll be here, if you want me to.
I think that it would help with the process, especially if we're talking about how funds are going to be spent and used. And that was all that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan, CEA team. With that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, actually, one more thing. We have three meetings left. I, in my mind, the way things are going, unless there's a big change, I think it might be. I just want you back to answer tonight. Think about it in caucus with your team, the possibility of either adding another day or meeting during the day, maybe coming even during school hours if that's what has to happen. But I think, I don't want to leave proposals undiscussed if we cannot get it done in that amount of time that we have. So I just hope the district's open to looking at other ways to extend the time possible.
So I'm speaking as a chairperson, and again, God, 2 for 2 sounds political, sorry. We'll do everything we can to look at our schedules, but I don't want to write a check I can't cash, and that is by committing now without conversion, 1. 2, I do want my little caveat or my disclaimer to that Mr. Miguel CA team is that keep in mind what we've talked about as a team in terms of these proposals as we move forward, that I want to say this carefully, and we may not reach an agreement on some of these proposals, but what I hear you say is that let us at least as a team, as a process, vet those again, review those again, and discuss those. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay, absolutely. Okay. So, with that said, is there a motion to adjourn, the meeting on March 21st?
Can I make that motion?
Okay. Ms. Bryan makes the motion, and
I'll second.
Exactly.
Yes, she got this one.
Ms. Daniels, seconds that. All those in agreement? All those, in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll see you all next week. Thank you, guys.